Let's talk about quadratic equations today. Okay, so what's a quadratic equation? It has the degree 2 terms, ax squared, plus a degree 1 term, bx, plus a number c, and the other side is 0. So here the most important part is the meaning of these three letters a, b, c. So a is always for degree 2 terms, b is degree 1, and c is the number term. So if there is an example like this, negative 2 x squared plus 1 is 3x. What is ABC? So first you have to look at the right hand side. The right hand side of this equation is not 0. So you cannot say ABC. You cannot get ABC in the beginning. You have to make right hand side equal to 0 by moving 3x to the left and reorder them. First, degree 2 terms, negative 2x squared, and then 3x moved in the middle, so it's negative 3x, and finally is the number term, positive 1. The right hand side has to be 0. Then we got ABC. A is negative 2, B is negative 3, and C is 1. Okay, so this is the quadratic equation. Quadratic means degree 2, and A is the coefficient for degree 2 terms. The easiest quadratic equation is like this. X squared is 25. How can you solve this equation? Take square root both sides. So this side we got x squared, square root of x squared. The other side we got square root of 25. So the most important thing is we have to take positive and negative square root. So later I'll explain this notation. Plus and minus. Plus or minus. The square root of x squared on the left is x. And the square root of 25 is 5. So we got positive or negative 5. So this notation, positive negative 5, means either positive 5 or negative 5. So why we have to take positive and negative square root? Because positive 5 and negative 5 have the same second power. Negative 5 squared is 25. Positive 5 squared is also 25. Okay, so when you take square root, you have to take positive and negative square root. So quadratic equation has two solutions, most case. Okay, so we call the first solution x1, we call the second solution x2. A harder example. You have 16, x squared is 25. Okay, so no, we cannot take square root in the beginning. We have to isolate x squared. So divide by 16, divide by 16. We got x squared is 25 over 16. So now take positive and negative square root on both sides. Okay? So this side on the left we got x. On the right we have positive negative square root of 25 over 16. So x is positive negative 5 over 4. So what are our two solutions? x1 is positive 5 over 4. x2, the other solution, negative 5 over 4. Okay? Two solutions for quadratic equation. So that's the easier case. Okay, that's the easier case. So now let's look at a general case. So last time we were using factoring method to solve this question, to find the solutions of this quadratic equation. So let's do that again. That's our first method. Okay, so method 1, factoring method. X squared plus 2x is 15. So same idea. First we move everybody to the left, make sure the right hand side is 0. So we got x squared plus 2x minus 15 is 0. Trial and error method, right? We need two numbers, s and t. Sum is b, product is c, because a is 1. So let's write down ABC first. A is 1 from this line, right? A is 1, B is 2, C is negative 15. Okay, so we have x plus s and t. So what's the condition for s and t? So we start from the product, right? So C is the product, B is the sum. We need two numbers, product is negative 15, sum is 2. So we make the table like this. So negative 15, s comma t, and then sum. So what's the possibilities for product 15? So I will just list two possibilities here. Positive 3, negative 5, or negative 3, positive 5. Okay, you have more possibilities. So that's our product, right? 3 times. So let's go back a little bit. Actually write down the product here, right? 3 times negative 5, 15, or negative 3 times 5. So the pair is 3, negative 5, negative 3, comma 5. So what's their sum? 3 plus negative 5, negative 2. 3, negative 3 plus 5, positive 2. So which one is the answer? Which one is our s and t? This one. Okay, so s is negative 3, t is 5. So now we go back to the equation. So we have x plus s, so plus negative 3, times x plus t, so positive 5, is 0. So now we need something called the zero product property. So the product is 0 means each of them equal to 0. So the first one is equal to 0, or the other one equal to 0. So x plus negative 3 is 0, so x is 3. X plus 5 is 0, x is negative 5. Okay, so this is the first method, factoring method. So what's the answer? 3, negative 5. So A is the right answer. So now let's look at method 2. So method 2 is called completing the square. Okay, completing the square method. So basically we want to change this quadratic equation to the beginning easier case and then take positive negative square root. Okay, so for this example, x squared plus 2x is 15. So what's our goal? Our goal is we want to change this part to a square. Okay, so this is a special case. So x squared plus bx. How can we change this part to a square? A is 1, B is 2 for this example. So we add a special number here, plus B over 2 squared. It's a formula, you have to remember it. Okay, for the method 2, you have to remember it. It's B divided by 2 and then take second power. So this expression is x plus B over 2 squared. By adding a constant, by adding a new number like this, we get a perfect square. So now what is the B for this example? 2. So B is 2. Then add B over 2 squared on both sides of the equation. So B is 2, we got 2 over 2 squared is 1. So we have to add 1 on both sides of the equation. So what's the new equation? X squared plus 2x plus 1 is 15 plus 1. Okay, so we add this constant. We add this number, B over 2 squared. So after you add this number, what you get? X plus B over 2 squared. So this is x plus B over 2 is 2 over 2, so it's 1. So this is 1 squared is 16. So what's the next step? So this is step 1. Step 2. Take positive negative square root on both sides. So on the left we have x plus 1, on the right we have positive negative square root of 16. So we have x plus 1 is square root of 16 is 4, so 4, or x plus 1 is negative 4. So the first case, we got the first solution, x is 3. The second case, we got the second solution, x is negative 5. So we got 3 and negative 5 again. This is the completing square method. First, we add this constant. Step 1, we add this constant, b over 2 squared, if a is 1. Okay, so there's a condition, if a is 1. Later, I will give you example, a is not 1. Okay, we will talk about a harder example. When a is not 1, you have to first divide by a, make sure the second degree 2 term is x squared, and then add this b over 2 squared. So now let's look at the third method. So before I talk about the third method, let's find ABC again. So let's rewrite this equation. X squared plus 2x is 15. So you cannot find ABC now. You have to change right hand side to 0. Move everybody to the left. And then reorder these three terms. X squared, degree 2 term first, degree 1 term, and then the number term. Then we got our ABC. A is 1, B is 2, C is negative 15. Okay, so what's the quadratic formula? Okay, so after you find ABC, there is formula for the solution. Okay, for the solution. Denominator is easier. Denominator is 2a. Okay, so you can use capital letter or lowercase letter, right? 2a. And then numerator is harder. Numerator, first negative b. It's not b, it's negative b. And then plus or minus. Okay, we have two solutions. Plus give us a solution, x1. And minus can give us a solution, x2. Plus minus a radical. What's inside the radical? Is b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so denominator is very easy to a, numerator is much harder. If you want to use method 3 to solve this question, you have to remember the quadratic formula. Okay, So now let's delete the formula and then calculate the solutions for this example. So let me write down the formula again. Negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac. That's the numerator. Denominator is 2a. So the harder part is this part. Okay, if this is a perfect square, take square root to get integer. The question is not that hard. Now let's continue. So this is equal to 2a is 2 times a, so which is number 1. Negative b is 2, so this is negative 2 plus minus b squared, 2 squared, minus 4ac, so it's 4 times 1 times c. C is negative 15. So let's simplify a little bit. 2 squared is 4, and this part, the multiplication 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times negative 15 is negative 60, and then minus negative 60, you got positive 60, so it's 4 plus 60 is 64. Okay, so let's keep this calculation here. 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 15. So this is 4, 2 squared minus negative 60. So this is 4 plus 60, which is 64. Okay, so now we have negative 2 plus minus 8. Radical 64 is 8 divided by 2. So what's our first solution? x1. We use the positive sign, plus sign. So plus 8 divided by 2. This is 6 divided by 2 is 3. x2, we use minus sign, negative sign. This is negative 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5. So it's 3, negative 5. We got the same solution. Okay, so now we have 3 methods for this particular question, quadratic equation. So if you are good at factoring, you use factoring method. Completing square method is hard. Later I will show you a harder example. So the second choice is this quadratic formula, but you have to remember the formula. Okay, but if you have the TI-36 calculator, there's a button to solve the quadratic equation. You don't need to remember the formula, you just click the button, you get the answer. So now let's continue to look at a harder example. Let's solve this equation. 5x squared plus 13x minus 6 is 0. So again, I'm going to solve it 3 times because we have 3 different methods. First method, factoring, right? Factoring. So how can you factor 5x squared? Is 5x and x, right? X times x is x squared. So how can you factor 6 and negative 6? So it's 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1, 6 or 6, 1, right? Yeah. So now we check is 2, 3 or 3, 2. And one of them is negative. Okay, one of them is negative. So the important thing we need, the sum is 13. So how can we get 13? So we need something 2 times 5, 10. And then 3 times x. Okay, it looks like 13. But remember, here is negative 6, not 6. So we need one of them is negative, right? The 10 is too small. 15 is good. So here is positive 3, here is negative 2. Okay, so 3 times 5, we got, it's FOIL, right? Outer product, 15x, and negative 2 times x, negative 2x, 15 minus 2 is 13x. Okay, yeah. So now we factor this is equal to 0. So product is equal to 0, that means this one equal to 0 or that one equal to 0. So 5x minus 2 is 0. We got 5x is 2 divided by 5 divided by 5. X is 2 over 5. If x plus 3 is 0, So we got x is -3. So again, two solutions, 2 over 5 and -3. So this is the factoring solution. But you can see the beginning step. This is very hard. If you are very good at trial and error method, very good at factoring, you can try this. Or you can use AC method. But AC method is too long. I don't want to write it down because we have quadratic formula. We have other methods. Okay, other methods. So before we talk about completing square method, let's use quadratic formula to solve this question. It's also not very easy, but it's much easier than factoring and completing square. Okay, so now what's ABC? A is 5, B is 13, C is -6. And you can use calculator for the calculation. So remember the formula? -b plus minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So what is -b? -13 plus minus 13 squared b squared minus 4 times a times 5 times c -6 divided by 2a. So it's 2 times 5. Okay, so again, the complicated part is this radical part, right? Radical part. So let's put it here. 13 squared minus 4 times 5 times -6. So 13 squared, use calculator, right? And this 4 times 5, 20. 20 times -6, -120. So we got 289. So what's square root of 289? Is 17. Okay, is 17. So the quadratic formula, -13 plus minus square root of 289 divided by 10. 2 times 5 in the bottom is 10. So this is -13 plus minus 17 divided by 10. So plus sign give us a solution, minus sign give us another solution. X1 is -13 plus 17 divided by 10. Which is 4 over 10, 2 over 5. The other solution is minus sign, right? So this is -30 divided by 10 is -3. So we got the same solutions. And it's much easier than factoring. You just plug in numbers, use calculator, you get the answer. Okay? So the problem is you have to remember the formula, the quadratic formula, this formula. If you can remember that, this question is easy. Okay, so let's go back to the completing square method for the same question. 5x squared plus 13x minus 6 is 0. Okay, so first we want to move c to the other side. We got 5x squared plus 13x is 6. Okay, move -6. You got a 6 on the right hand side. And then we need x squared. Okay, we need x squared. So divided by 5. Both sides divided by 5. We have x squared plus 13 over 5x is 6 over 5. Okay, so before completing the square, we have to have something like x squared plus bx. That's why c is in the right hand side and a has to be 1. Okay, so c is in the -c is in the right hand side. That's step 1. And step 2, divide by a. Make sure a is 1, right? Divided by a. Divided by a. Okay, so now we can completing the square by adding a new number, b over 2 squared. So let's call this new b is b star. It's not the beginning b, right? In the beginning, A is 5, B is 13, C is -6. Okay, so this is the B star for our completing square method. Okay, so B star is 13 over 5, so B star over 2, this is 13 over 10 squared. You see, it's very complicated. It's a very complicated fraction. So both sides of the equation, we add this constant. On the left, we got x plus b star over 2 squared. So it's x plus 13 over 10 squared. On the right, we have a very complicated addition. 6 over 5 plus 169 over 100. Okay, so combine them. Combine these two fractions on the left, we get same denominator 100, right? Times 20 times 20. We got 120 plus that, this is 289. Okay, and then we take square root now. So x plus 13 over 10 is square root positive negative of 289 over 100. So x plus 13 over 10 is positive negative 17 over 10. And then plus sign give us a solution, minus sign give us a solution. You got two solutions, same solution. x1 is 2 over 5, and x2 is -3. Okay, -3. So I don't have space, and then the calculation is complicated. I just give you the two answers here. Okay, so let's repeat. What's the steps for the completing square method? Step 1. Move -c. You have -c. Move c to the right hand side. You got -c on the right hand side. And then divide by a is step 2 to make sure you got x squared, not ax squared. And then we look at this whole equation like x squared plus b star x. So we add this constant, that's step 3. Add this constant. Okay, that's step 3. Step 4, we got a perfect square, right? Step 4, we got this perfect square, so this is step 4. It's very complicated. And step 5, just take square root. And plus that give you a solution and solution. So for this harder example, we have 3 methods. Okay, so now let's look at the final exam questions. So in the final exam, they didn't ask you to solve this. They didn't ask you to solve this quadratic equation. They want you to factor this quadratic polynomial. Right? So we have 3 methods to solve this equation if this is equal to 0. Factoring method, quadratic formula, completing the square. And we got 2 solutions. x1 is 2 over 5, x2 is -3. And I already said if you have the fancy calculator, TI-36X Pro, just click a button, you got these 2 solutions. Okay, got these 2 solutions. But this question in your final, they said factor the polynomial. They don't want you to solve this equation. It's not an equation. They want you to factor it. So if you can factor it by using trial and error, then you got the answer. One of them in the ABCD. One of the 2 factors will be in ABCD. So you can also use AC method. Last time I talked about AC method, but AC method for this question is also very hard. Okay, yeah. So if you know quadratic formula, if you have this fancy calculator, you can get these two solutions for the equation. Okay, so first we assume we are solving a quadratic equation. Okay, we got two solutions, x1 and x2. So now how to factor the left hand side. Okay, so I will write down a formula. Then you will get two factors for this quadratic polynomial. So this is the formula a x minus x1 x minus x2. Okay, so what is a? A is 5. x1 is 2 over 5. x2 is negative 3. So what do we have? We have 5, x minus 2 over 5, and x plus 3. So distribute 5 to cancel denominator, right? In ABCD, there's no denominator, only integers. So we got 5x minus 2 is x plus 3. So which one is the answer? This one. This one is our choice A. And choice D, sorry. Choice D. So what about 5x minus 2? 5x minus 2 is not in the answer. Okay, so the answer for this question is D. So again, if you can find x1, x2 by using quadratic formula or by using the calculator, you can use this formula to factor the quadratic polynomial. Okay, so they are almost the same. If you want to solve a quadratic equation, you can factor it and then solve it. If you want to factor quadratic polynomial, you can solve it first and then use this formula to factor it. Okay, so now let's look at another example. Okay, 2x squared minus x minus 55. Okay, so I'm going to first use quadratic formula and then I'm going to use factoring method, trial and error method to factor it. Okay, so first basic solution, basic method. A is 2, B is negative 1, and then C is negative 55. Okay, so again, if you have this calculator, a good calculator, you got two solutions, x1, x2, and then you use this formula ax minus x1 times x minus x2. You got the solution A, B, C, or D. If you don't have the calculator, you can use quadratic formula. So now let's try to use quadratic formula. What's the quadratic formula? Negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So negative b is negative 1. Okay, so b is negative 1. So negative b is negative 1. So we have positive 1 plus minus square root negative 1 squared minus 4 times a. A is 2 times negative 55 divided by 2 times a. So it's 2 times 2. Okay, so denominator is easy. 4. 1 plus minus. This is 1, right? This is 1. This is 8 times 55. So it's 441. So square root of 441 is 21. So we got 1 plus minus 21 divided by 4. So what's x1? x1 is 1 plus 21 divided by 4. 21, there's no square root, sorry. 1 plus 21 divided by 4. So this is 22 divided by 4. This is 11 over 2. And x2 is 1 minus 21 divided by 4, so which is negative 5. Okay, so we have two solutions. 11 over 2 and -5 by using quadratic formula. Okay, so now we have these two solutions, 11 over 2 and -5. So now how to factor the given quadratic polynomial? We need a factor, okay, a factor. So a is 2, x1 is 11 over 2, x2 is -5, so x minus -5. So what's the two factors? This one, minus minus, you got x plus 5. And the first one, distribute 2 to cancel denominator, we got 2x minus 11. One of them is the solution. So you check the first one, 2x minus 11, the right one. So D is the answer. And you check the blue one is not in ABCD. So the answer is D. Okay, so if you can use quadratic formula to find these two numbers, this factoring question is also very easy. Okay, so again, this is the basic solution, not the best solution. The best solution is just try and error. Now let's look at the best solution, factoring solution. Trial and error method. So let's write down the question again. 2x squared minus x minus 55. Okay, so what is 2x squared? 2x squared is 2x and x. What's 55? 5 and 11. Right? So the question is not that hard. So 2x and x. So let's use the blue one, blue color. And then we have 5, 11 here, or 11 here, 5 here. And remember, this is negative 55. So one of them has to be negative. It's either 5 is negative or 11 is negative. And we need the sum to be -1. Okay, the sum of outer product and inner product to be -1. So how can we do that? 2 times 5 is 10 and 11. So 11 and 10. 10 minus 11, we got -1. Okay, so now we need 2 times 5, so 5 is here. Okay, we need 11 there. And we need -x, so it's 10 minus 11. So 11 is negative. This 10 is positive. So then we got the factorization. Okay, so you see 2x minus 11, D. X plus 5 is not there. We got the same solution, same answer. Because this question is too hard, let's try it one more time. This new question, 2x squared plus 11x minus 21. So ABC is either A is 2, B is 11, C is negative 21. Then we use the quadratic formula to find x1, x2. Let b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Because my space is limited, I'm going to skip some calculation here. So negative b is negative 11 plus minus b squared. So it's 11 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 21 divided by 2 times 2. So this is negative 11 plus minus divided by 4. This is square root of 289. So which is negative 11 plus minus 17 divided by 4. So we got two solutions. x1 is negative 11 plus 17 divided by 4. So it's 6 over 4, 3 over 2. Or x2 is this minus subtraction, minus sign, divided by 4. So this is negative 28 divided by 4 is negative 7. So we got two solutions. x1 is 3 over 2, x2 is negative 7. So now we can use the next formula to factor the quadratic polynomial. Again, it's not a quadratic equation, so we cannot stop here. We have to factor it by using this formula. Okay, this is an important formula for factoring question. So what is A? A is 2. X minus x1 is 3 over 2. X minus x2, negative 7. So distribute 2 here, we got 2x minus 3. And the other one we got x plus 7. Okay. So which one is in the answer? 2x minus 3 is not in ABCD. X plus 7 is A. So this is the answer. Answer is A. This is the basic method for this factoring question. You use quadratic formula, this formula, to find two solutions, x1, x2. And then use the factoring formula, A times x minus 1, x1 times x minus x2. Okay, so now the trial and error method. You can try the AC method by yourself, okay? Trial and error method, we look at this part and that part. So how can you get 2x squared? Is 2x and x. What's 21? 3 times 7. Okay, so now let's try to pair them, right? 2x here, x there. So here is 3 and 7, or 7 is 3. Again, this is negative. So we need one of them to be negative. So now the sum is 11. If it's 2x times 3 is 6. 6 plus 7 is 13. But they cannot be both positive, right? Can be both positive. So 2 times 7, 14. 14 minus 3, 11. Okay, so here is positive. We get 2 times 7, 14x. And then this 3 is negative. Minus 3x is 11x. Okay, so you use trial and error method. If you can guess this way, it's a guessing method, right? You get 2x minus 3 times x plus 7. So which one is the answer? The answer is A. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so now this is too hard. So let's look at the graph of quadratic polynomials. I will explain the reason why we always have two solutions, and then use quadratic formula to calculate the last example. Make you feel better. Okay, it's not that hard. Okay, quadratic formula is easy, especially when you have a calculator. So our last example is x squared minus x plus minus 2 is 0. Okay, we want to solve this quadratic equation. So what is A? A is 1. What is B? B is negative 1. C is negative 2. So formula negative B plus minus B squared minus 4 is C divided by 2A. Okay, the main reason for today's lecture is this formula. Just remember the formula, plug in ABC. But you have to make sure the right hand side is 0 before you talk about the ABC. Okay? Right hand side is 0. B is negative 1, so negative B is 1. Plus minus negative 1 squared minus 4 times A, 1 times C, negative 2, divided by 2 times 1. So inside the radical sign is easy, is number 9. Okay, 1 plus minus square root of 9 divided by 2. Square root of 9 is 3, so it's 1 plus minus 3 divided by 2. We have two solutions. X1 is 1 plus 3 over 2. X2 is 1 minus 3 over 2. So this is 4 over 2, 2. The other one is negative 2 over 2, negative 1. So we have two solutions, 2 and negative 1. Just remember the formula, and then it's easy to get the answer. So what's the graph for this? What's the picture graph looks like? If you let y equals to x squared minus x minus 2. Okay, so the graph looks like a parabola. So we got two solutions already. So x1 is 2, x2 is -1. So here is -1. Here is 2. Okay, so the graph is a parabola. It's a U-shape. So the graph of quadratic equation is either U-shape or N-shape. Okay, so we have a parabola passing through these 2 points, and it's open up. So this is the graph of this question. Okay, so here is our x1 and x2. So in general, if you have a parabola like this, right, you can see we have two solutions on x-axis. This is x1 and x2, right? You may have the other one. So this is x1 and x2 for this quadratic. Okay, yeah. So maybe you have a bigger parabola, very big parabola. And this is x1 and this is x2. So most cases we have two solutions, but we have some special cases. Some special cases we only touch x-axis once. So we have x1 is equal to x2, only one solution. Okay, so what's the example? X squared is equal to 0. When you take square root, okay, x is positive square root, negative square root of 0. So x is positive, negative 0. So x1 is 0. x2 is also 0. Okay, so the graph of this x squared is the blue curve here. So what's our x1, x2 is the center. x1 is equal to x2 is 0. Okay, so we have this special case. x1 and x2 are the same number, right? Are the same number. Another special case is no solutions. Some quadratic equation has no solutions, like this. Okay, you draw a U or M parabola, open up or down, but they didn't touch x-axis. So this case, no solutions. Okay, so for quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c is 0. Most cases we have two solutions, x1, x2. And sometimes we have one solutions because they are the same value, and sometimes no solutions. So which case we have no solutions? X squared is equal to -1. So we know for all the numbers, second power is positive. So for this quadratic equation, no solutions, no real solutions. Okay, yeah. So again, the key point for this talk, for today's lecture, is the quadratic formula. Okay, so before you use the formula, make sure the right hand side is 0. And then you got a for x squared term, b for x term, c is the number term. So here's the formula. We got two solutions. x1 is plus sign give you a solution x1, minus sign in the middle. So this is plus sign in the middle give you a solution, minus sign in the middle give you another solution x2. Okay, yeah.